Good evening, everyone. System Jock here with the 20th episode of the Physician playthrough for Cultist Simulator, playing as Lord Percival Stabbe. I'm not 100% better, and I do apologize for the previous episode. I realized the quality was probably not what it should have been, but I am feeling a bit better now, and hopefully I'm going to be coughing and sneezing quite a bit less. But as you can see from the previous episode, we have everything that we need for the Ascension. So the question would be, why do I need to add another episode? And really the one thing that I wanted to do, and one thing that's kind of become aware, is that at least some of you enjoy some of the lore. So I thought, well, it might be out of character for Lord Stabbe to do, anything other than pursue single-mindedly a goal. It's also true that things such as passion have diminished. There have been a number of changes that have happened to this individual. So of course, while this is very much trying to appeal to some of the things that people have expressed interest in, this is also an opportunity to just exhibit a little bit of change for the character, because of course there are a few things that we were trying to do. We were trying to do some more recruitment, we were trying to do a number of different actions. So I thought that we would use this last episode to try and accomplish as many things as we're attempting on this run, and we can see whether or not we'll see whether or not we can have a satisfying ending one way or another. So with that in mind, let's go and work at the Institute for a little while. We still have fascination, which is threatening us, and so one thing that we do want to try and do is get a little bit of dread or a fleeting reminiscence. If the passage of time goes by and we have a season of despair, that'll be one way that we can get rid of that. The alternative would be, we try and get some winter influence, let it decay and whatnot. In any case, the one thing we definitely don't want to do is lose our 6th mark. If we do that, we are not going to be able to ascend. So we've got Saliba out seducing a stranger. We know we're going to be hit by the Season of Suspicion, but we have a spare Callagine hanging around to be able to deal with that. Alright, the expedition continues. The site will tolerate no life, says the journal of Zane Mark Gentis. So we'll find no serpents there, but the place sounds cursed, and Gentis recorded a door that his expedition could not open. I know we read that last time. So the first thing we'll do is add a forge follower. Now I'm going to add the Callagine for now just to preserve it, but I'm actually going to add Laidlaw for a just to help us out on the desert. Just as a reminder, this is the Temple of 7 Coils that we're working with. Okay. The minion is returned, attended by a prisoner, rendered docile with delight. There we go. So, next question is, what do I want to do with the talk verb? We don't have any evidence yet, so the Callagine isn't too helpful in this particular situation. We can repair a mirror. I guess I can't get the Callagine to repair the mirror. For now I think I'm just going to talk with it. It does sort of wastes the slot for a little while, but it's probably better than sort of sitting idle. I'll also add some money to the expedition, so we'll take the Ascent of Knives. It's difficult to control oneself. The Ascent of Knives is called the Sharp Stair and the Mother of Mirrors, and the Feast of the Grail. If one is to look beneath the stair as I did last night in my dreams, one understands that last name. It draws a tithe of blood from the feet of those who ascend. And Pausai, some shaped like men, many shaped like women, wait beneath the glass of the stairs to satisfy their hunger. I did not approach, I made no sound, I only observed. So I think I'm... let me get my notebook. Yeah, so the Vagabonds Map we last saw was in the Worm Museum, so I am not quite at the point where I want to waste a... journey to the Peacock's Door. Another Season of Visions coming up, so that's not going to help us. So yeah, let's go back to the Stag Door. It's also possible I'm I'm misremembering what we can get from the Sharp Stare. I thought we could get Winter Influence, but I could be mistaken. Our forge skills should keep us safe and lead us through the baking rocks to the green places. We'll almost certainly be fine. I'm adding the funds now because we're going to have to add some more people in the for the expedition later. Now, we translated the Song of the Carapace... No, hang on. Did we do that for the Dread? I think it was the Medusa's Lament that we did, and I believe that did correctly... We correctly predicted that it would generate despair. So, I suppose out of all of them, the Sevenfold Slaying of the Seven Coiled, which, of course, is a theme we have been studying, and currently an expedition that we're on, this is probably the most likely out of the options that will produce a... one that will produce a Dread. Also, it's just interesting to read right now. So, while we might want the higher Forge lore, this I'm feeling a little bit safer reading in my current state. So, account of the destruction of a primeval hour, a god who is stone. There are 12 verses. In the first, an ascendant hour, identified as the Scarred One, enumerates his justifications for destroying the Seven Coiled, its appetites, its growth, its enmity to humanity. In the second, a priestess puts out his eyes and scars his skin to protect him against the Seven Coiled's magics. In each of the next 7 verses, he destroys one aspect of the Seven Coiled. So if we're lucky, this investigation will wrap up in time for the Callagine to work on it, but I am almost certain it's going to take too long. Okay. I've done some good. My patients are quieter than I was when I began. Sorry. Not articulate tonight. The sun is setting. We look back across the desolation we crossed, and at all the colors it assumes in the evening light. Night falls, stars prickle, the wind presses cold hands to our faces. Onwards. I think my words cease like sand in a glass. Okay, Season of Ardor's coming up, so that will be... Well, I mean, we can always skip it if Enid's on an expedition, but there's really no reason to do that. Okay, the Ascent of Knives and the Furious Air. Anger is implicit in every shape. Of the place my dreams took me last night, this has been written. The ascent is glass, the walls are knives, each step is blood. I did not climb far, the pain was too great. When I woke, that pain remained with me, a pain I could employ to occult purposes if I hurry. Now, even if I'm doing this wrong, I mean, the thing that's nice about this is we do have some summoning options, even with Edge. So for instance, if I was really desperate to get some winter, one option I would have would be, some winter influence. I could actually summon something like a Maid in the Mirror using the Furious Air. I'm not going to, just, it's, the Stag Door, it isn't this nice little spot where generally the stuff you can get out of it is quite helpful, and it's quite helpful to just have on the table in a general sense. There was another thing I wanted to say, but I've kind of lost my train of thought. Anyways, yeah. So, I mean, if it's an all hands on deck situation, I can summon a Maid in the Mirror, get rid of the Maid in the Mirror. I can, for instance, use the Maid in the Mirror for a sacrifice to something else, even potentially just summoning another Maid in the Mirror. Or I just simply wait for it to expire, but that's a very long time to wait for Dread. There's also other sort of things you can do to generate some Dread, which, I don't know, I personally don't like using. Maybe one day I'll come up with a character which can sort of justify it. And I'm obviously not above messing around with a couple of ideas if it's expedient inside of the playthrough. But one other possible source of dread, which may not be very obvious, is the fact that I keep using the Callagine, which has moth influence, and the number of actions that I can take that do moth. So for instance, writing moth commissions. Basically, that's giving me some rolls on moth, which will potentially generate restlessness, or old unhappy far off things, which generates restlessness, which can decay into dread. So that's more of an implicit action that I'm taking, but it's, that's another path that I'm going down. So why I'm not quite at the hair on fire level for Dread yet. And of course, if we have a bittersweet memory with the meeting with Enid, all the better. We need Lantern or Moth to suppress the curse, otherwise it will not keep us from our goal, but it may trouble us later. Well, as we were saying, in this case, Moth is actually quite helpful. And the worm's in the world, so we really don't want to mess with that. I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. So we're going to give the evidence to the Callagine for destruction. And I guess there's no reason why I can't be going back through the Stag Door, so... Oh, there we go. We were looking for that dread, so... In my dreams, I know the path to the Stag Door, through the maze of the bounds. Gearby will let me pass, but the path is always a puzzle. I will need reason. I guess I don't really have a reason to go through the Stag Door again, but... Alright. In the 10th verse, the Scarred One bathes his priestess patron... excuse me... in the blood of the Seven Coiled, to lend her power. In the 11th, they assault the temple behind the world, entering it by force. In the 12th, they swear a tripartite oath to protect their ancestors, their descendants, and themselves. So we have the alignments of murder. These are the arts that ensure an ending. Alright, so we're safe now. Even if we generate fascination, this Season of Visions is not going to affect us, so we can safely read the remaining works. Let's go for the manner in which the alchemist was spared. In 1782, Anelve Verdier used this text as a basis for a presentation to the Academy of Sciences in Paris. He was executed in secret the following morning without trial. In the days of the Carapace Cross, when humanity lived in the dark and ate on its knees, humans could enter the mantis like vermin. One learnt the arts of flint, the arts of shaping and remaking. I've done some good. My patients are a little quieter than when I began. Again, we don't have any commissions to work on, and I'm not at a point where I want to do further summonings, so we're going to go back to the Institute. There is a dank and clinging smell in the Institute halls that never quite leaves one. Perhaps it is the paint, perhaps it is the patients, perhaps it is something in the walls. And we will almost certainly shatter this warded door. This was because we already had the forge. I think we might need an additional funds. It doesn't hurt to add one, so we'll just keep it there for now. It's weird to say an additional funds. It's the weirdness of working with individual cards. So Season of Ambition's coming up. Actually, it occurred to me I dropped the ball on creating a snare. My lover and I contend in the spaces above and beneath the flesh. I must match their intensity. Oops, sorry. Together we are brighter. My minion is returned. The evidence has been destroyed. I am a little safer. All doors must open as all lives must end. This door found its end here today. So we'll have a chat with Count Jennings. The Good Count's fraternity in Europe is seeking particular research. We finally got our bitter atmosphere. Winter passes the clothes, passes the skin, nestles in the veins. I visited the Ascent of Knives last night, that harshest of roads through the house. It has been sacred to the Menascate and the sun and rags since the intercalate, when the true sun was divided. When I woke, my room was freezing. The chill of it had cracked the window glass. I've actually, by the way, heard one of the designers of this game say this word, and they say intercalate, which is probably the right way. But I've learned, even in the Elder Scrolls episodes, that when I when I try to use the quote-unquote proper one, and also I think in the case of Cultist Simulator it is true, there are some things which seem to be official answers, but I do notice that there is a tendency in Cultist Simulator to like leave it up to your your own interpretation. So whether or not there's an official name for intercalate or intercalate, I don't know, and I'm definitely not as versed in linguistics as I mean, there's a tremendous love of language that goes into this game, which I am never even going to be able to approximate. So I won't try. But feel free, write in all capital letters in the comments why I'm wrong in my pronunciation of intercalate. Through the black, the yellow, the red, the unwise mortal ascended to the shadow of the egg unhatching and remained in his service. He may be there to this day. Now, I wish I could remember the colors. I don't know if these are the same colors as the sun, the reference to the divided sun, but that would be one that I would want to check in another circumstance. And we have the mysteries of making. So, our prediction did line up. In this case, this fascination did emerge. That would have been basically a game loser for us if we sort of went automatically with reading the books at the time that we got them, but we didn't. So, the Forge of Days, the Menascate, and the Madrigard are gods from light. Mercury, silver, and gold are the seeds of the work, and here is their sacred doctrine. Alright, we can afford to read the Songs of the Carapace Cross. Micah Z, or Kai, sometimes called the Magus of Quartz, etched this work in acid on stone. It has been reproduced many times since, but the reproductions are often lost to landslides. I like that idea, particularly for a Nock book. Z describes the rites of the gods who were stone. The first hours is practiced before the existence of human civilization by the Carapace Cross. He claims a final survivor of the cross shared the information with him. And we can afford to go to the Peacock Door now, so... In my dreams I know the path through the glass garden to the Peacock's Door, the most admirable of doors, the door which shines like a mirror. Perhaps, with the right resources, I can pass it. The Peacock's Door reflects the mirror I hold in my sleep, and the mirror reflects the Peacock's Door. Already, a sensuous shiver ripples its surface. It aches for fracture, and when it finds that satisfaction, I will enter. Okay, so... a very on-brand commission for us to do for Count Jannings. What would Dr. Adim like? The doctor would like help with his research. This may be useful for a commission. And we will add the Callagine. Would like something on secret history is a fairly minor one, so I think that just gets me an Iron Spintrea. And Madame Bichet is seeking pieces for the notorious Carisham Review. The Raptures of Understanding. Enid prefers to close her eyes rather than look at me. She says it with such longing that I can't take offense. So not only do we have a contentment, but we have a bittersweet memory. So in the case, if we're worried that this fascination might cause problems for us, we do have a way of tranquilizing it now. Here's what she needs. A forge commission. Alright. Oh, Jesus. Alright, there you go. So, sorry, I had a clear idea about what I wanted to do with the talk verb. Oh yes, we want to get rid of our... Well, do we want to get rid of the bitter atmosphere? Let's risk hanging on to it for now. I suspect I'm going to need to... I'm going to need to deal with it sooner or later. And as a precaution, obviously we're kind of relaxing as far as the snare is concerned for the next location. Maybe we'll with the Tomb of the Shadowless Kings, but we'll put a pocket snare just in case. No reason to get, we're getting a little lax now, but we're not going to get consistently lazy, let's say. Okay, Season of Suspicion coming up, so that notoriety is probably going to sink me, but if we turn in a couple of commissions, we can delay matters. And we are almost certainly strong enough in Moth to be secure against this curse. And the choice with Saliba was good. Again, we could have lost our 6th mark, at which point we would have had a harder time ascending. Okay, well, there's the dread we were looking for, and let's see what's in the Red Church. A favor from authority. I've learnt something that will earn me a favor once only. This will preserve a follower from imprisonment, but it cannot be relied on. Each of the stained glass windows of the Red Church is devoted to a distinct appetite, and the scenes they show are from life. Last night, in one of the uglier windows, I saw the appetites of a certain public figure satisfied in private. I know he won't want this information made public. Perhaps he will show me some consideration. Okay. The rites are largely obsolete now. Few have been observed in the last 1,000 years at least, and to have any effect at all. Nevertheless, Z identifies at least one invocation of particular power. He warns that it should be used with caution, lest the gods who were stone might find their way back from nowhere. So, liminal evocation, which I believe is our highest level knock yet. One god who was stone remains, and she watches all thresholds. So let's just take a second here to clear out the fascination and dread. No point in having too many risks on the table there. Actually, had I been thinking, I should have used the fascination as an input to the study of the secret histories. My bad. Okay, so I know for talk we need to prepare another victim, but for now, I'm gonna mind my manners. I guess we can read sentimental literature. If I propose to learn anything, I wouldn't be reading this stuff. And I have finished the Edge manuscript. We have a little bit of money, so let's get our commissions done. Well, if they want a small commission, they'll get a small commission. I've drunk the light from their mind. I've drunk the light of their mind. It thrills and fills me. The marks brighten in me. This was close to expiring, but we're gonna get caught. My followers set a perilously cunning ambuscade, one that will almost certainly succeed. Okay, so we can turn in some commissions if I wanted, but before I do any of that, let's get... well, one, I'm actually going to tranquilize the icy atmosphere, so we will go to the Church of the Bright Edge. We'll include this invocation, and we're going to bring another hanger-on in. This one is ready. The air is curdled now. I'm home again in this lumpen flesh. Better, perhaps. Alright, so as much as I'd like to go back through the Peacock Door, I'm actually going to hang on to my Watchman's glass just in case I want to do something. Our power was strong... Oh, sorry, we've already read that. We got past the worms. And let's go for the forge. So got the Glimmering and Erudition if I want to try and upgrade something. I suppose we can do that with a Forbidden Epic. And we will be getting the Callagine back before too long. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen the knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. Okay, so let's go. I am very tempted to repair the mirror, but again, our marks depend on having prisoners. So I'm going to chat with Stabbe about procuring another body. Probably should have done that earlier, but I didn't want to get hit by the despair. Turns out that was the right call. 7 coils, said Gentis Journal, but the idol within is an impossible heap of stone serpent, coil upon coil, a knot that dizzies the soul. Wrongness squirms in the temple corners. We should search the place quickly before its influences overwhelm us. The temple is as clean as if it were newly swept. No sand has crossed the threshold, no dust settled on the idol's horrible twists. We find things tucked away here and there amid the coils, as if they had been playfully left for us to find, or as if the idol had coiled around them. Okay, better atmosphere, so we want to run, we want to get rid of that. Good work, Sylvia. Good work, Laidlaw. Okay, there's a Callagine, which we'll probably lose. Gold Spintrea. Initiates of the Hidden World use Spintrea to pay for services. They can easily be sold for more traditional funds. Gold Spintrea display scenes that are not visible to mortal eyes on their reverse side. Spintrea can be sold for more traditional funds at an auction house. This is level 8 lantern. So, unbelievably, we are out of space for lantern artifacts. More watchworms. Oh no, these are the first one that we've got. A tiny pot of stunted, desiccated larval remnants from the First Worm War rank with the power that inhabits dead hours. In Memory of Gods, a work by the Barrow Child, a nameless Gaulish adept who joined an organization known as the Ordo Lemea. And the Division Bell, first its voice, then after, nothing. Okay, let's do... I think I'm going to run straight into another expedition, so we'll use our last Vagabonds map here. The river, wrote the sage Mech in the Book of the Centipede, runs through the sands out of myth and into legend. This is the place the centipede was born, they say, the sands of which Mech wrote hide perilous curiosities. Certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. So we should be able to save at least one of the Callagines. Possibly both, but it's going to be a little... There's going to be a little bit of tap dancing to make that work. Fortunately, the percussagent is an expert in tap dancing, so... Alright, I finished the manuscript. Now, we have not been back to the Institute for a while, but, you know, I have my priorities. So, first thing we're going to do is resummon a Callagine. So, that's a knock. Doesn't really... Oh, actually, I suppose it does matter because this needs winter. I can use a new division bell, but we'll use the flute. Forge for the Smoky Spirit summoning, winter for its binding. It must know who will rule it. And this is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in the odd corners of scholarship. Out in the night, my followers whispering words that sometimes they might mean. Even if the victim knows the words are lies, they might not care. I think we're going to start going through the stag door again just for safety. Okay, another dread. So I want to be careful about this icy atmosphere, but otherwise we should... Actually, we should be fine because it's got 2 points of decay anyway. And Maya, we're already at the end of the Lone and Level Sands. So Port Noon awaits. There was a city here. We can pick over its remains like jackals over old bones. Palace walls, buried roads, shattered fountains. Sometimes we may find the knowledge of the dead, and sometimes the dead may find us. We found out the expeditions in the sands, although you can find and visit Maya several times. We will hold off on that, but, you know, obviously I'm going to want to get the percussagent and the Callagine. Actually, you know what? It's going to be difficult coming out the other end of this, but... The city Maya has long been sunk in the desert. Only ghosts walk its street. Anything left there will be well hidden, and the Vagabond's curse hangs over it all. Oh, okay, sorry. Masana was the wrong one. Maya was the Vagabond's curse city. Her revenge on the place that wronged her so. My minion has returned, attended by a prisoner rendered docile with delight. Hey, you're back. So we gotta wait for the summoning to finish. I can turn in some commissions though, so we'll get that done while we wait for the summon. I have what was requested. I received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. Same thing with Dr. Redeem. I have what the doctor requested. Not all of Forge's children are bright. Its offcuts and its bastards gather in the bounds like hammerscale in the cracks of a smithy floor. Here comes one now. And we need glimmering. Alright, so work-wise, it's basically going to the Institute or using the icy atmosphere for something. Expedition continues. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. So traditionally, I add another Forge follower for the start. The Creeping Breath Curse, so we'll use Heart for that. The Fretful Dead, probably it's just a matter of edge. And then the Hidden Door requires Lantern or Knock, so that's either one of those we're going to need to bring the top level for. And I think in this case we'll use Lantern. We do now have a backup with Spencer Hobson as far as Knock is concerned, but we gotta preserve poor Neville. Alright. So extra erudition, extra mystique. And we will now destroy the evidence with the Caligan, or at least attempt to. So I believe I'll have to add 2 funds on this, which means the Institute suddenly becomes a bit more of an attractive option for the work slot, but as usual, circumstances are going to dictate how we navigate matters. So Subtle Rupture is probably the best option here because it gives me more summoning choices. So entering the Stag Door. In sleep I ran my fingers along the ridged edges of the Stag Door's scars. Our company it was that shattered it, Gearby says suddenly. Before the gods who were flesh, the Mantis was forbidden to mortals. We were the first no. He begins again to weep his molten tears. I wish that we had not. I wish that I had died in the world. I've forgotten what else he said, but I remember the shape of the fissures in the Stag Door, and for all of today, doors will fear my touch. So once again, we will go to the Stag Door. This is partly in order to preserve our mirror. Sunscorched Road. Our forged skills should keep us safe and will lead us through the baking rocks to the green places. We'll almost certainly be fine. I don't intend to use this Subtle Rupture, but it's nice to have. I await word. My minion is returned, the evidence has been destroyed. I'm a little safer. Okay, so if I want to avoid the dread, I should use this in a... yeah, why not? We'll add the final hanger on. We do have the option of continuing to advance our pawns, so this is still effective as a means of neutralizing threats from influence. We'll try and add the Caligan if we can, but it's not as high of a priority. I visited the Ascent of Knives last night. That harshest of roads through the house. It has been sacred to the mess gate and the sun and rag since the intercalate, when the true sun was divided. When I woke, my room was freezing. The chill of it had cracked the window glass. So, another potential dread. I suppose I could keep trying the Red Church, but that would assume that I've repaired the mirrors. Alright, you know what? We don't really need to... We don't need to dream as much. Increase my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one we know. So there's a mild temptation to to try getting a fascination in order to, you know, move this unresolved ambiguity up. But I have a feeling that sort of stuff tends to show up on its own, so I'm not gonna force it. All right, we'll add the Callagine for safety. It does mean that I lose an opportunity to add funds, but we should be okay. Actually, there's gonna be a little bit of a juggling act that I need to do here. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. Okay, we've got the hapless prisoner. Let's get some repairs done. I guess Velsine's traditionally been the one to do the repairs, so... Really, I'm just trying to get some more books so we can learn some more before we finish up. Our strength is considerable. These dead, with their avid, pitiful eyes, have died once already. Their hold on the waking world is weak. We should be able to send them down into the darkness, but we must take care. So Rose will settle the matter. The dead are as pale as inverse shadows. They move like cobwebs in a breeze. Almost certainly they can't stand before us. We'll send them mumbling back to the shadows of the wood. Okay, Season of Despair coming up, so I want to be careful with the icy atmosphere. And erudition's not going to last long enough to be useful for an upgrade, but we can read sentimental literature as well. If I propose to learn anything, I wouldn't be reading this stuff. And we need to employ reason. Together we are brighter. Gotta remember to work on that snare if we have a mind to. My followers at work on the mirror. When the dead return to us, they use what matter they can if their bodies are gone. Dust, rust, cobwebs, scraps, and tatters. Now that we have broken them, these tatters are all that remain. Okay, so we really should be adding funds here. Actually, I want to, but I need to add at least one lantern follower in case the ordering's not right. Enid prefers to close her eyes rather than look at me. She says it hurts to look. She says it with such longing I can't take offense. So, we've got a pleasant memory. The challenge here is that the icy atmosphere is probably going to decay to dread right at the time I can't afford it to. So, I probably want to move someone up in the cult. Mirrors repaired, it shines again as it did once before. So, before we improve the mirror, we're going to take our icy atmosphere. Clearly we want to upgrade the edge follower first. My follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. And Season of Sickness, so if I can, probably a walk outside will help. Our senses are sharpened. We should find this hidden door, and if we add Cat Caro, we'll almost certainly find this hidden door. I should have done erudition, not glimmering. Alright. The world is awash with printed words. Even the newspapers contain knowledge sometimes. Fruitless search. Where is it? We could use more knock or lantern. I don't think that's true, actually, but it does mean we'll add some extra cash. My scars are weapons. Through striving, I rise to victory. There is no defeat but annihilation. In the light of the bright edge, we know ourselves. I pledge myself to the service of the strongest. So we have a sturdy disciple, loyalty, and muscles. Okay, I've done some good. My patients are quieter than when I began. Back to the Institute, and let's take care of that other mirror. So, Valsine, if you'd be so kind. Okay, Season of Vision's coming up, so let's hold off on that Peacock Door visit. Supplies are low. Unless I send more funds, we'll have to abandon the expedition. So we'll add 1 funds now, and then we'll add an additional one because we're already where we need to be with Lantern. The words contain knowledge, and now I contain it. It's a little like theft, a little like feasting, and a little like the progress of an infectious disease. So I'm going to run a risk here of losing the glimmering, but long walks kill cobwebs. It would be nice to get rid of the sickness without having to spend money. Lord Stabbe takes better care of himself than your humble host. We will almost certainly find this hidden door, so this is, again, an opportunity for us to bring a little bit more, a few more resources to bear on the expedition. Done some good. My patients are quieter than when I first began. And you will have your Spintrea. My followers at work on the mirror. Okay, this illness has damaged my health. I'll need to rest before I'm fully recovered. I don't know if I've ever really mentioned this, but so, and this comes up, this is one of the things that most commonly comes up in terms of comments, as if kind of like I don't know it. And again, I've kind of said this before. I mean, there's sometimes surprises. It's never very helpful to play a game and assume you know everything. But in the case of the Affliction, so a thing that people very commonly... Well, I don't know if they very commonly do it, but one thing that at least people talk about a lot is to allow yourself to have 1 decrepitude, because if you have a decrepitude, you can go out and you can beg for money, and begging for money with your decrepitude will generate a dread. And so... I mean, back in... So, before Fleeting Reminiscences were able to tranquilize Fascination, I think... I don't know, I don't have statistics on this game, but Fascination was a very, very dangerous influence. It was one that, certainly in my own experience, it probably was responsible for most of the involuntary losses that I had once I got to a point where I felt like I had a very good command of the game. And that was because the only way that you could get past a Season of Visions originally would be to generate dread. And of course, if you have a Season of Despair, the dread goes into the Season of Despair, not into the Season of Visions. And so you have this ability to accumulate fascination. And you don't really have a very effective way of getting rid of it. What I think people did to sort of counteract it. There's a couple of ways you can get dread which are not necessarily reliable, but what people would do is they would keep a decrepitude to do the begging, and that way you've got sort of a way of escaping the fascination. That becomes less necessary once you have Fleeting Reminiscences because it's a little bit easier to get rid of the fascination. But one of the big reasons why I don't like doing that, I think there's some cases in Cultist Simulator where you can come up with justifications for people bringing harms on themselves, for sure. But there's something about gaining dread from begging when you've willingly taken on the decrepitude that is really, like, it just, in my head, it doesn't really feel right. There's the idea of, like, painting summons to keep them into the world longer. The game actually explicitly mentions that inside when you try and paint a summon. You can have summons talking with each other. Essentially, in a lot of these cases, you're occupying them. Even in the case of something like keeping an influence through talking, right? It is maybe the process of speaking about it, right? Because there's so much stuff that people sort of talk about in terms of magic and ritual, like the idea of the word glamour and grammar sort of having this common origin. I think a lot of that sort of stuff you can justify. And I mean, in the end, right, we're very inventive. Whenever we want to take advantage of something inside of a game, we can come up with an excuse. But I've always sort of felt that, you know, willingly taking on decrepitude is a little weird for the start, but second of all, willingly taking on decrepitude so that you can later beg for money and have that generate dread is just one of these things that doesn't quite sit right with me. Whereas a fleeting reminiscence is something that you can kind of think of, yeah, actually, that is kind of grounding me down, that maybe it doesn't just have to be despair. Although the one thing that I've always felt a little bad about is that I really did like the idea of even dread has its uses, that you're able to turn the negative into something useful for you. And I mean, that happens quite a few times inside of Cultist Simulator, but it's probably the most explicit example. And having a fleeting reminiscence get rid of fascination, you've kind of lost the strength of that connection. It's now possible to never use a negative trait for anything positive, but obviously to gain sort of the full mastery of the concepts of Cultist Simulator, you really do want to use things like dread. So for instance, in this playthrough, if you're playing an edge cult, if you find that you lose to dread quite a bit, one advantage you have is that you can use dread to, if I recall correctly, I think it's got an edge influence. I'm pretty sure we've used it to bring in followers. So even if you don't have the edge lore, of course you'd have to have edge lore to found the cult, but if you don't have any edge lore currently available, you can still use edge as an influence, or the dread as an influence, and bring something else in on the ritual. So I don't know if that's helpful at all, but that's one of the side benefits. And then of course having, you know, three level 10 edge followers is pretty cool. There's not a lot of obstacles that can stand in front of that. If I propose to learn anything, I wouldn't be reading this stuff. Excuse me. Like I said, wasn't fully healed. Mirror's repaired, it shines again as it did once before. So we don't have the same threat from fascination anymore. Once I'm healed up, we can go back in. Hapless prisoner's not quite expired yet. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could add another follower. I think it's just the creeping breath curse that we need to worry about. So I suppose we can add the heart follower now. Clovet, if you please. Doctor would like my help with his research. Okay, another season of ambition, so let's maybe prepare by grabbing another body. We can get the commission first, I suppose. She's seeking pieces for the notorious Karasham Review. Call upon the Ringyu who is renewed. We are almost certainly strong enough in heart to be secure against this curse. And we should have some books coming up soon. We may not actually have the erudition last long enough, but let's do our best with the Forbidden Epic. History is less certain than we are taught, but I can learn from the study of its blurred edges. And Grail Commission. Alright. So, let's get Saliba to grab us another follower. A sufficiently persuasive disciple can probably lure a susceptible companion back to us. I think I said I was going to go back to the Peacock Door. In my dreams I know the path through the glass garden to the Peacock's Door, the most admirable of doors, the door which shines like a mirror. Perhaps with the right resources I can pass it. I've done some good. My patients are quieter than when I began. And another season of suspicion coming up, so we'll probably have the Callagine ready to go when that comes up, but... The curse clings. There's a price to be paid when one trespasses in a place like this. Someday soon, the curse will tighten around us. Alright. Well, nothing else to be done about it. Looks like Douglas is making his move. There's another who would ascend before me. So, murderous schemes, traces left by a rival's decision to move against an enemy. Now, the weary detective might already be working on the Season of Suspicion. I was too slow with the erudition. Out in the night, my followers whispering words that sometimes they might mean. Even if their victim knows the words are lies, they may not care. City no more. There is a price to be paid when one... Oh, hang on. Wind of Maya is a pettish wind. It tugs at our garments like a needy child. It tosses sand in our faces. It whines among the dust-choked stones. The desolation of the city is not quite absolute. There are pillars, arches, sand-blinded statues, steps to nowhere. That's not capitalized, right? Yeah, okay. Rival intends to end a hunter. This may be to my advantage, but it may also draw attention. So 18 seconds, the weary detective is safe. And another Vagabonds Map. So, the pattern is holding. Forgot to get my pen again. Of course, now we'll be using Vagabonds Maps for upgrades. Excuse me. I saw the red church again last night, with its pews of bone, the stained glass in shades of ruby, the golden altar that beats like a heart. That night, the names of the Grail gathered to speak of those long who'd sworn off the pleasures of the bedchamber, say between a man and man, or woman and woman. They still pay the tribute of delight, an ivory said. They do not bear fruit, a lovely said. If Forge and Son had only joined, a thirstily lamented. And then they fell to gossiping of the long of the House of Leith and their deeds in the desert. I remember it still. So, we will clear out the, or we'll repair the mirror when we can. I'm trying to think whether or not I would like to go back to the Peacock Door right away, or if I always want to keep one mirror in reserve. We'll wait on it for a little while, I think. Our minion is attended by a prisoner rendered docile with delight. Okay, so we've got a couple of prisoners. We'll probably need to use this one before too long. We can do another repair job, I suppose. Right, we use this to get rid of the... Yeah. The only thing I'm thinking about is the evidence, but we can probably get the repair done. Okay, another season of ambition, so right call on the prisoner. We find relics in an abandoned chamber which might equally have been a cellar or a shrine. The walls are cracked and sand is poured through. When we return to the surface, the wind is rising. It almost tugs us from our feet. Perhaps it missed us. So again, we were talking about how it'd be difficult to hang on to these. So, more Witch-Kissed Oil, Microvitrius, very helpful for us here, and more Wolf Snow. Okay, so I am going to explore the Port Noon anecdote. Across the bright far sea, Port Noon lies. Exiles, monsters, and visionaries have long favored the waters around it. Perhaps we shouldn't get too close, but it might be useful to get close enough. So I already knew that that was going to be, that we were going to get caught no matter what. My study's been stymied for now. So no books for us to... Oh, sorry, that's not true. We have Memory of the Gods, which I was supposed to read at some point. We've had that for a while. I think I've been on Sleep at the Switch. Right, a work by the Barrow Child, a nameless Gaulish adept who joined an organization known as the Ordo Lamea. I'm going to try and hang on to the hapless prisoner for as long as possible, just on the chance that I can use them. Doesn't mean that I want to keep the dream slot open though. A half-glimpse wistfulness has touched me. So this is going to be complicated as far as getting my summons lined up, so we'll probably lose the percussagant as well, which is a bit of a shame. Need to keep the dream slot open for the prisoner, though, unless I want to use the prisoner as an input to something. Okay, the follower will need a bronze Spintreo or better to complete their task. This could be a problem. I've done some good. My patients are quieter than when I began. Okay, so here we can't summon the percussagant anyway. I need to use the prisoner. Okay, so we're gonna make a few moves all at once. The spider's door is always thirsty, always. The blood I have given leaks in threads and spills through the skin of the world. And the door drinks it, and a moment's satisfaction swells its opening until I can pass. Let's get rid of the restlessness through the power of art. You never know, this might be a living. And Fort Garrick, so depending on what Connie is up to, we may want to start that expedition sooner than later. Also, I completely neglected. The curse has taken hold, now the life pulse slows. The curse is no ordinary sickness, but with enough heart influence, it will be possible to turn it aside. Well, if I get heart influence, one, it'll be too late, and two, I probably want to use it to summon a percussagant. Okay, so evidence is after us. A cautious scheme, so we're safe. Our rivals are not going to claim a location from us. Okay, Season of Vision's coming up, so I want to be careful around the Peacock Door, but the Barrow Child, a nameless Gaulish adept who joined the organization identified as the Ordo Lamea, writes regretfully of the destruction of the gods who were stone, the hours who preceded humanity. The Barrow Child singles out the Scarred Tribune, the Red Grail, the Forge, and the Moth for a special condemnation as murderers of the first gods. We live in the shadow of their crime, she writes, and we must evade it or repeat it. So I'm going to try and hang on to Fort Garrick as long as we can. Some repairs in. Calagine's going to destroy the evidence now. And I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. There's another way to send before me. So I guess maybe because someone has murdered a hunter. This may give me breathing space, but it may ultimately bring the Suppression Bureau to my door. The world goes away. This could cause problems with the Season of Visions that's about to come up. Magnificent work. I've created something both distinctive and beautiful. It will very likely enhance my reputation. Yup. The reason work is considered significant. I may earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. So, contentment's not going to do that much for me right now. No staleness, I suppose that's bonus. Didn't really make that much money. We basically just made the paint money back. But we're pretty wealthy, so... Alright, well there's the decrepitude. Each breath we take in this life is weaker than the last until we come to the final breath of all. The process is so slow as to be imperceptible until one is touched by the creeping breath curse. Right. We used all of our passion for that. There's a few works that I want to undertake. Probably the most important to me right now is to get a percussagant, or at least some summon for Fort Garrick. So, in this case I'm going to use the Rite of the Crow's Quenching. Oh, sorry, no, the Sea's Feasting. So this rite calls on the witch and sister to close the gap between what is and what might be. The adept pours or hurls an offering into water, preferably, but not essentially, the sea. So we'll take the witch-kissed oil. We could use the rose pearl dust as well, but we'll use the witch-kissed oil here. We will bring Meteoric Bullet, which I think should be enough, and the Liminal Invocation. The Percussicant, merciless and merry, heart will bring it, edge will constrain it. Blaze of radiance. Every color has grown bright as new dye, but now all of them begin to bleed towards white. Last night in the Mansus, I visited the Mallory, from whose impulses and rotations one does not emerge unchanged. There are many radiances there, from the fires of the forge and her names and her instruments, but one radiance lingers behind them all like fading music. The last light of the sun in splendor, shed in the moments of his division, here where the forge is strongest. Now that I have awoken, I see that radiance still. So this is something I'll have to deal with if we do not deal with the trembling in the air. The sun flickers like a shadow, dreams ripple behind the surface of mirrors. I must be careful not to drift from the waking world. So I was going to be going to the Worm Museum, which may be helpful for Dread. Let's take a second here and see what happens with the Memory of the Gods before I go too far. One other thing I can do is... Oh no, I can't explore. I can never remember how I move locations. There we go. Move our organization's headquarters to a new location. This will help me with the upgrades if we need to. We are at the end of our time together, so there doesn't seem to be a lot of value in delaying this any longer. There is one thing that I want to do, though, to wrap up this story. So, kind of traditional to the last time we did the last ending. This will be a bit of an extended episode because I have a specific idea of how I'd like this story to wrap up. So, the Bearer Child describes how the Grail drained the hour called Tide, how Moth usurped the wheel from within, stealing its skin, and how the Forge first eclipsed the shattered flint. Perhaps these are glories, she observes, but then it cannot be that glory is merciful. So this will help us with the fascination. Good news there. The world is awash with printed words. Even newspapers contain knowledge sometimes. Guess it doesn't hurt to go back through the Peacock Door. A minion has not returned. They have failed, and their blundering may have attracted attention. So this will mean I'm going to want to try and get some... I'm going to want to try and get something to summon a Callagine. I guess Grey Dawn Oil might be an option. Or, yeah, no, Grey Dawn Oil will probably cover us. Although, in fairness, we don't have quite the same threat from the Suppression Bureau right now. Now we will. First the thump, the rattle and cry of the ceremonies it attends in the wood. Now here it is, shouldering its way through the world's skin like a clawed and ruthless uncle or a headless flapping bear. So as before, we want to kind of get on with it. So let's grab the Grey Dawn Oil. We will invocation. Oh, nope, sorry. What am I doing? Forge for the Smoky Spirit summoning, winter for its binding. It must know who will rule it. No address is ever really permanent. Like our bodies, we leave them all in the end. But for now, this is home. We can talk with the Percussicant for a bit, just to keep it in the world. The words contain knowledge, and now I contain it. It's a little like theft, a little like feasting, and a little like the progress of an infectious disease. Now, I want to try something here. So if I study No, they want me to increase my reason with that. So what I was thinking of here was, can I upgrade my lantern influence? And so I will admit, I am not 100% sure how one is supposed to improve the influence. It seems like a fairly narrow set of circumstances where you're going to have two of effectively the same type of radiance. But in fairness, it's also something that I haven't tried very often. So it's just one of those things where, you know, it's not necessarily that it's hard to do in the game, but it's something that I haven't put a lot of thought to. We'll take another stab at the histories. I don't really think there's a whole lot for me to try otherwise. Sorry, I think we said we were going to the Worm Museum. Okay, so, but so this is not necessarily an argument against the alternating locations of the Vagabonds map, because there was no map. I dreamt last night of the Worm Museum. The hours have set wards about it and warnings before it, but they have left it open to mortal adepts who can prove themselves by reaching it. Perhaps they hope to inspire revulsion against the things that bred in the corpse of the sun, those things that are still always dying, never dead. They came from nowhere, the warnings say, and if they complete their work, the Mantis will be nowhere one day. Okay. So I do need to figure out a way of dealing with this dread. The Season of Ardors might be enough on its own. I'm not quite ready for Fort Garrick. So we'll just leave the Explorer verb on its own for the time being. We're probably going to lose this glimmering before I can make use of it. Another weary detective. This gentleman would much rather be left alone with his pipe and his illustrated London news, but no, apparently some conjurer of abominations has to be hunted down like a mad dog, and apparently no one else can find the time. Wisdom as a country, and these are its maps, so definitely losing the glimmering. Season of Ambition's coming up, so we do have a hapless prisoner, which is good for me, but we do want to get a move on with Fort Garrick at this rate. Not all of Forge's children are bright. Its offcuts and its bastards gather in the bounds like hammerscale in the cracks of a smithy floor. Here comes one now. So I do actually want to summon another one of these things to deal with the evidence, but we don't have an immediate need for it. So I'm going to let that go. We are going to get a move on the expedition. And I'm going to deal with my decrepitude, so I think we'll do another Rite of the Seas fasting. I gotta remember how this works, though. So I think if we add Forge, and then Grail, so let's add the collaboration. I need at least 5 Forge and 1 Grail. Oh, okay. Chaotic Essence, then. Forge's Redemption Major. The Forge of Days destroys and renews. If I invoke it with Grail to renew my failing flesh with forbidden magics, you are calling on a major degree of Forge, so the rite will probably succeed. Increase your Forge to at least 15 to improve your chances further. Forge of Days destroys and renews. I invoke it with Grail to renew my failing flesh. Renew my failing flesh with forbidden magics. You're calling on a grand degree of Forge, and this will almost certainly succeed, but there are always risks. So, in this case, we'll also generate some fascination, but that will help me with the dread. Also, while I was repairing myself, I almost neglected Enid. Together we are brighter. Particularly bright after my little encounter with Lantern and oh yeah, I don't actually have fascination right now. Well, I don't need to worry about the consciousness of radiance though. So, on to Fort Garrick. A crumbling sandstone fortress broods over an empty bay. At night the dead walk, by day they lie in wait. In a sealed vault, the old governor's hoard awaits its plunder. I don't know what I was thinking. This almost was enough too. If I just timed it a little bit better. Enid prefers to close her eyes rather than look at me. She says it hurts to look. She says it with such longing that I can't take offense. Okay, let's get Valsine... No, you know what? Let's get Saliba on procuring another victim. Sorry, we've got that already? Alright, I've given my agents an opportunity to serve. Let us hope it ends well for us. So, first of all, the Western Sea. Most of these islands are well known to the histories, but our destination lies in wild, uncharted reaches. We'll need heart or forge to survive. So we actually have both, with the Percussagant and the Callagine. Moving up, the Fretful Dead. Not all dead rest easy. These ones dislike our intrusion. We can prevail against them with edge, or they may obey one who comes in the name of winter. And finally, a warded door. An engineer or an adept has ensured that this door will not open easily. Forge or knock will defeat it. So, with that in mind, Laidlaw will be our forge for the Western Sea and the warded door, and then we'll add an edge follower to deal with the dead. So we do have 2 fascination coming onto the table. This is important to keep in mind in case we do have a Season of Visions that pops up. And we do now have a new priority for getting rid of the evidence. I've been renewed with flame, tempered with blood. My flesh is strong again, but the Forge's radiance has dazzled my soul, and people will talk. Decrepitude has been transformed back to health, but you've gained fascination and notoriety. Alright. So, let's try and get rid of some of our threats. So we will combine the Fascination and Dread for a start. What else did I want to do? There's something I was going to do with the work slot. Yes, we're going to summon another Callagine, so we'll take the Rite of the Seas fasting again. Again, we've got a really no shortage of items. Forge for the Smoky Spirit, summoning winter for its binding. It must know who will rule it. And another cautious scheme, so our locations are safe. The Sailor's Surety. Our forge skills represent plenty of expertise. We'll almost certainly make it through. Alright, now we don't really have any other texts to work with, so in this case we can afford to study the histories again. I am going to make an effort with the Fascination. Still in hiding. What exactly are they up to? Wave lashed and sea spattered, sun scorched and salt stained, but here. Hey, good timing on the Season of Sickness. We've got the vitality to cure it. Not all of the Forge's children are bright. Its offcuts and its bastards gather in the bounds like hammer scale in the cracks of a smithy floor. Here comes one now. So the timing might not work with tentative evidence, but we will push ahead. I think we're okay to go back to the Institute. So my minion is returned empty-handed. So a shame. We will take care of... We don't need the prisoner as much as we used to, so the evidence is the higher priority. 60 seconds, almost certainly the weary detective's going to scoop that out of our hands, but we will we'll do our best with what we've got. So we'll add Eldridge for a start. It's normally my trap maker, but we haven't been using him for that for a while. And it's a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in the Odd Corners of Scholarship. Now, I mean, the funny thing here, actually, if I'm thinking about this, we have a library for a reason now, so we'll just add that. No reason to put ourselves in unnecessary risks, although Oh no, I can't. I was going to see if I could study it. My rival's been up to some kind of mischief. The Suppression Bureau may take note. So yeah, the evidence did get snatched up before we could work with it, so I'm just going to have to talk to the Callagine again. And our strength is matchless. The dead are as pale as inverse shadows. They move like cobwebs in a breeze. Almost certainly they can't stand before us. We'll send them mumbling back to the shadows of the wood. And Season of Despair, so I want to mind my manners as far as any dread generation is concerned. Ooh, just in time. If this ever reaches trial, I will be in serious danger. Even if this hunter is disposed of, another may find their notes. I await word. When the dead return to us, they use what matter they can if their bodies are gone. Dust, rust, cobwebs, scraps, and tatters. Now that we have broken them, these tatters are all that remain. Okay. We will use the dream slot for the affliction. For the talk verb, we've destroyed the evidence already, which means we could have added the Callagine to the expedition. I don't quite need a replacement prisoner yet, but it can't hurt to bring them back. Bring back a spare. Now I understand. Then we'll repair the mirror. The air again is curdled now. I am home again in this lumpen flesh. Better, perhaps. The expedition continues. I'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. We should be fine because we only have the door, so I actually think I already brought too much in the first place. I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one we know. So, in this case here, we would need the library, the erudition, and the glimmering. So in this case, if I were to do more commissions, we'd actually find it quite easy to upgrade the Vagabonds Map. All I need now is time. For the time being, let's study the erudition. To the Institute. We'll almost certainly shatter this warded door. So this is the last of Fort Garrick. Out in the night, my followers whispering words that sometimes they might mean, even if their victim knows the words are lies, they may not care. All doors must open, as all lives must end. This door has found its end here today. My minion has returned empty-handed. Oh, Stabbe. What's going on, my friend? It's not like you. So we have to get rid of the prisoner. Alright, we did get rid of the evidence, so that's good. That would have been a big threat, because we don't have a favor from authority. Words contain knowledge, now I contain it. It's a little like theft, a little like feasting, and a little like the progress of an infectious disease. If I propose to learn anything, I wouldn't be reading sentimental literature. Okay, so we need to clear out the prisoner before they turn into evidence. Spider's door is always thirsty, always. The blood I have given leaks in threads and spills through the skin of the world, and the door drinks it, and a moment's satisfaction swells its opening until I can pass. So just a matter of time before we see the secrets of Fort Garrick. Wave wash chains of rocky islands vibrant with green life. I should probably be reading the descriptions of the Actually, I don't even know if I ever read the description of where we're going. I read the original one, but the Evening Isles, wave-washed chains of rocky islands vibrant with green life. Fort Garrick, 300 years ago, a rapacious empire claimed an island ripe with tourmalines. Neither the empire nor the island are mentioned in any reputable history, but the governor's fortress remains. Perhaps his treasures remain. For that matter, perhaps he does too. Okay, see some emissions coming up, so I want to be pretty careful. Incandescence change follows fire. Last night in the Mansus, I visited the Mallory, from whose engines and avenues one does not emerge unchanged. I watched the processes of sunset, and I entered the amber joy and the white joy and the blue joy, and I was subjected to the enlightenments of calcination, and the forge of days touched me with her burnished fingers, and I rise from my bed with the utter knowledge that all nights, all nights, all nights must end. So we're ready to upgrade the Vagabonds map. There's no reason why we shouldn't at this point. And dream-wise, let's go back to the Peacock Door. Peacock's door reflects the mirror I hold in my sleep, and the mirror reflects the Peacock's door. Already a sensuous shiver ripples its surface. It aches for fracture, and when it finds that satisfaction, I will enter. So no surprise there that they're picking up evidence. Or, well, producing evidence. The Vault of Fort Garrick, a mosaic has been laid out as a game board of stupendous size and complexity, a map of the Evening Isles. The sea tiles are lapis, the islands are nephrite and obsidian. There are toy ships and tin soldiers. The Isle of St. Thomas is sieged. Raven Isle is crowded with black chess queens. Among the game pieces, items of true power have been used as temporary markers. Was this an attempt to hide them, or did the governor know nothing of their real worth? So, more notoriety, funds, Eldridge, Laidlaw, thank you all. Got my crew. The True Blood of Saint Januarius, so a heart, powerful heart item. We've got the Time of Division, in which Amira Zahara prophesies the events later known as the Intercalate, when the hour called the Sun and Splendor will be divided. My deeds, my powers, my achievements. My deeds, my powers, my achievements, and the injustices perpetrated against me. And a Carcass Spark, a remnant of a greater radiance glowing softly as decay, just possibly a mote of the divided sun. Alright, having visited Fort Garrick, seen the location, the Evening Isles, the time has come to perform the final ritual. So we will put the Ichor Vitreous in. Oops, wrong one. So again, this is the rite of Seas Fasting. This rite calls on the witch and sister to close a gap between what is and what might be. The adept pours or hurls an offering into water, preferably but not essentially the sea. So Ichor Vitreous, the Watchman's Glass, the Mantra of Ascent, appropriate. So, the Ascent of Knives is the bloodiest of the Watchman's tests. Those who pass it and are dead enter the service of the sun in rags. Those living who pass it are a little closer to the glory. The Watchman's Glass. This is the mirror into which one does not look twice. The Ichor Vitreous, a pale and watchful fluid that can be gathered sometimes when the door in the eye is opened. Little of this flesh remains. I will pass through the tricuspid gate, and I will not return. The Watchman awaits me. In his footsteps I will find the glory's light. The understanding is too much for my soul to hold, and so my soul will open. I will not be immortal. I will be more than that. Any follower will be used in the ritual will be consumed. If you care about whom you might leave behind, be careful. Incursus. He is returned attended by a prisoner rendered docile with delight. We got the splendor anyway. Cover your eyes if you like. It will serve no purpose. When one dreams of the Red Church, one hears the voices of the Grail's names, the Thirstleys and the Ivories and the Lovelies and the rest. Not all the Impausi are women, they might be heard to say. The hungers of women run no deeper than the hungers of men. But a mother is never far from her child at birth, and that is not always true of the father. Come closer and we'll show you what we mean. Grail influence is strong when the beloved shows up. I'm safe for now. My adversary has not enough evidence to bring a case against me, and they found no new clues. Perhaps they love me, perhaps I love them, perhaps none of that matters. Add passion to turn aside from your ascent and live as a mortal with your beloved. Do nothing to continue. Enid sees what others do not. It is becoming difficult for her, but it is very useful. I heard a story once of scales where one pan held a heart and the other a feather. This is the choice I now make, though the feather be eternity. Ever after, Enid. She does not talk when she is sad, but she is often sad. I know now to place myself. I know to leave my hand just so, and coax that lovely neck upon my shoulder. Our lives are modeled with moments like this, unspoken, unseen, us. And in the morning, when the day before her lies open and wide, she smiles the smile only I know, and I am well repaid. This might be considered a victory, but the house is no place for lovers. In the end, all Lord Stabbe wanted was to be loved. No, I don't know how long this piece is, but I do want to wrap things up. So, I don't know if this is going to be considered a trolley ending or not, but one of the reasons why, mechanically for me, that I wanted to do that ending was I do not yet have any of the Ever After achievements. So, in addition to getting some edge achievements, I got the Enid one. But the overall story that I also kind of imagined was with the slow loss of passion, sort of the imbalance between passion and reason, this would start to shake the single-minded pursuit of the Ascension. And what I'd kind of decided a few episodes ago was that it would be one look at the Evening Isles, which would be enough to sort of dislodge the Enlightenment as the top, sort of the top goal for the character. One of the things, I mean, so I tend to be forgetful when I play Cultist Simulator. So, but in this case, actually, the lack of willingness to do some of the snares and such were sort of little hints that suddenly the like the priority as far as the Ascension wasn't quite as high as it would be under other circumstances. So there's a few little hints in there. Honestly, the biggest reason for me was just to get a chance to do another achievement. And so one of the reasons why last episode I didn't. So one thing I did, I kind of wanted to be the trip to the Evening Isles to sort of be the last straw, as it were. But the other thing is I really didn't want the episode where I was sick to be the ending, particularly because I knew I would choose Enid in the end. And I don't know, like there's just something about suddenly cramming that in at the end of the episode that would be unsatisfying for me. So I hope you enjoyed this particular run. I've got a little bit of a decision to make as far as the videos are concerned. So we're done with the playthrough for tonight. If you're not interested in terms of future plans for Cultist Simulator, this is the time to stop watching. Thank you for watching. But just to manage some expectations, I am told by more knowledgeable YouTubers than me that sort of January is kind of a really dead time. Now, I think they're talking about advertising revenue, which really isn't a major concern for me. I mean, it would obviously be nice if sort of the channel can pay for itself as far as, just as far as, the time that goes in. But that's really not a goal here. But I am also a little conscious of the fact that overall growth is a factor as well, whether or not new people are subscribing or people are unsubscribing in that. And one of the most reliable ways to do that is to be consistent in terms of your uploads. So for the last while, I've been uploading Cultist Simulator content every Wednesday and Friday. And in my opinion, this is manageable. The 1 hour period was an experiment which seems to be largely been a successful one, but it is one that I don't necessarily know if it can be sustainable for me for the long run. What I mean to say is that at some point I'm going to want a break, and particularly because I'm sick. I am getting better. Obviously I'm better than I was in the last one, but now seems like a decent time for me to do that. So I'm going to have to ask for a little patience for you. There's now 2 full playlists of Cultist Simulator content. I know that does not help those of you who've been there from the very beginning, and I'm sorry for that. I really actually don't know a good way of keeping people happy in that regard. But one of the reasons I've set myself maximum 2 weeks. That doesn't mean that there won't be Cultist Simulator videos before it. I need to kind of see what my schedule is, but that 2 weeks is not just going to be me relaxing. That's actually going to be some time for me to get a nice little block of videos done, so that some of my future plans, I can still keep consistent with those uploads. If I get sick, I can take the time to get better and not feel a need to record an episode under suboptimal conditions. But it does mean that those of you who've gotten accustomed to seeing something new on Wednesdays and Fridays will have to, bear with me for a little while. And for some people, that'll be it, right? That the other stuff that gets uploaded isn't interesting enough, and there's the demand. I mean, all I can say is that was a request I was never going to be able to meet, so I thank you for your time with the channel, and I hope maybe you come back when when the videos are back and there's some new material for you. But with that in mind, I believe 2 weeks will still keep me within January, so sometime in January, again, no more than 2 weeks, I do plan to start another playthrough. I actually have a pretty clear idea of what the next run is going to be, but I need a little bit of time to recharge. I'm trying to deal with I'd like more content feedback. That's the most common thing that I get. And I'm going to be trying new things as always, but I think I have a couple of things I might be able to do, but I am going to need some time to set that up. And as always, if you've liked the series, if you liked this episode, I always do appreciate the subscriptions, the likes, the follows, and so on, and of course the comments. If there's anything that you'd like to see in the future, do please let me know. I'm sure you've noticed that there's a couple of shifts in terms of what I focus on in terms of talking. That's come as a result of the comments. But of course, as a YouTube viewer myself, I really don't comment on a lot of videos. So needless to say, I do get to see the stats of how people react to some of this stuff. But I always do like hearing from people, whether you visit the Twitch channel or the comment section in here. One last thing I'll say is I do have my regular Twitch channel, so those uploads will still be continuing. Not all of them get put into playlists. It's really just the ones where people feel like they'll be carrying on through. There's not a lot of games like Cultist Simulator right now, so I don't have anything that I can specifically recommend. But just for those of you wondering why it seems like there are still uploads happening while I'm doing my 2 weeks, that's 2 weeks from kind of being on the treadmill of regular cultist production. I'm still going to be doing the Oblivion and the regular stream, so that happens 3 times a week. And I am going to be doing... I am basically... I might take a couple of days for a break, but there is going to be Cultist stuff that I'm doing in the background. It's just a chance for me to sort of recharge and work out my plans for the next little while. The plan is always to make sure that once I start a series, it's an unbroken chain. So if that means I have to take a couple of breaks in between episodes, I work with what I've been given. But it's a long goodbye. It's a long episode, a little over 90 minutes. So again, I will say thank you for joining me on the Physician Legacy, on the journey of Lord Stabbe. I will see you in the future with another full run of Cultist Simulator. Until next time.